What's up, Eagles Nation? Welcome to the bye week of the 2019-2020 NFL season. The Eagles, as we all know, 2 straight wins coming into the bye week. 2 good wins. I mean, was it perfect? No, but a win's a win. You'll take a win. Are there things they have to improve on? Are there things they have to get better? Absolutely. I think the coaching staff needs to take this bye week and this extra time to really figure out what the strengths of this team is offensively. Obviously, if you look at the Eagles right now, the strengths on this offense is running the ball. I mean, they're really good at running the ball. When they actually want to. And hey, look, it's the old quarterback in him. Doug he likes the passing game. And obviously a week ago, shout out again to my buddies there, Tony, for hosting us, and of course Mark M and the captain Jason there, to have some fun at Tony's place and watch the game and see a win. It wasn't looking good there for a little bit in the second half. I'm there sitting on the couch there, and I'm remarking as the game is going on, and the Bears are getting closer and closer. I'm like, don't tell me this is going to be the Panthers game from a year ago, where of course the Eagles had a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter and ended up losing to the Panthers, and of course that didn't happen. The Eagles win 22-14, and to improve their record to 5-4, they're above 500 at the break. Which is where, I mean, let's be honest, we all thought they would be before the bye week. Obviously, some of us, myself included, thought the record would be a little better, going into the bye week. But it is what it is. They're 5-4. They're in a winnable division. And I know Dallas, hey, it's going to be between the Eagles and Dallas the rest of the way. You're going to have a monster game in December when those two teams play in prime time here, or at least the late game. Here at the link, and try to finally beat that damn team, because it hasn't happened in a few years, and I hate losing to them. So is there work to be done? Absolutely. We also found out, of course, and I don't know if it's a big surprise or not, but of course DeSean Jackson, who tried to give it a go this week, and some people thought that was a mistake. And look, if it was going to happen last week, it was going to happen next week. I mean, that's the type of injury that it could happen. I don't know if you ever fully heal from that in one season, even with surgery. It's a similar injury that Mac Hollins had, and Mac Hollins, even with getting the surgery, didn't play all last season. Now everyone's different, and who knows if DeSean, and I do feel he should have gotten the surgery earlier in the season after that happened after the week 2 game against Atlanta. But at the same point, there's no guarantee he would have been back, because it's that type of injury, it's that type of deal. Even after surgery, some players just don't play the whole year. You have to wait till the next season. So, no guarantees. But obviously, we saw him in there for a series. So basically, we had D-Jax this season for a game and a series. So, it is what it is. Look, this season, it just seems that Howie went safe. He brought back players who were here. You talk about DeSean Jackson, who I still think was a good move bringing him in. It's a shame he got hurt. He seems to get hurt every year. He's an older player. Obviously, it's really nothing you can plan. You can't plan for injuries, regardless of what it is. You can't plan for it. Now, maybe they could have drafted a little better at the receiver position and drafted DK Metcalf instead of Arcega-Whiteside. Now, obviously, we see what DK's doing with Seattle with an MVP candidate and Russell Wilson having a great season, and he probably would have had success here with Carson throwing him the ball. The problem is, of course, they didn't draft him, and they went with Arcega-Whiteside. Again, it's a bit to the detriment of the team that they just have not drafted well at the wide receiver position for a number of years, and they've missed on players like a DK Metcalf. There's been other receivers too, even in this draft, that they could have had, and they don't, and they go after and get a possession receiver, basically a replacement for an aging Alshon Jeffrey. And, it is what it is. It's one of those things. We're not in the war room. We don't know, obviously, what the conversation is in there. This guy fits the offense, that guy doesn't, whatever. So, we can just talk as fans here on social media like YouTube. I mean, there's really nothing we can do, but we all see it. We see the problems that this team has drafting receivers, which is why, yeah, you probably would have had to give up higher picks to get a receiver in here. Now, I still think a second rounder would have been way too high to give up for Robbie Anderson, who is a free agent, potential free agent at the end of the season. So to basically bring a guy in and rent a receiver for the rest of the season like they did last season when they brought in Golden Tate and they gave a third round pick for him, I believe, to Detroit. And that didn't work out all that great. Now he did have a pretty big touchdown for the Eagles in that playoff game in a double doink against the Bears that gave the Eagles the lead for good in that game. But all told, he really wasn't that big of a difference maker. That they didn't use him to his strengths, and that's a detriment to the coaching staff and whatnot. But again, that was a move that was made, and they gave up a pretty high pick to get him, and it didn't quite work out. So maybe Howie just didn't want to do it again. And you saw through the trade deadline, and I think I spoke on this in last week's vid, but there really wasn't a lot of moves by a lot of teams because a lot of these teams were kind of holding these players, I don't want to say hostage, but they were holding these players maybe wanting a little too much than what the players are worth. Now, the one player I still would have gone after was Emmanuel Sanders, and I do think that was a mistake by the Eagles not to get Emmanuel Sanders. But at the same point, I mean, Robbie Anderson, I wouldn't have given up a second-round pick for him. A.J. Green, I don't know what the Bengals really wanted to give up, but I mean, it is what it is. There was a thought in my mind to go after Antonio Brown, and the thought pretty much went away. It's just too much of a circus to bring him. He's a talent, but I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe with an off season and see what it is, all this legality stuff, whatever. It's just too much. I don't think this team needs that right now. They already have some issues in the locker room to begin with guys pointing fingers. It is good they got rid of the former Cowboy, and but at the same time, I just don't think that Antonio Brown would have been the move to make. And as you see, no team has brought him in. So again, we can split hairs about the free agency, about the trading. To me, the biggest issue still is the lack of getting those impactful wide receivers in the draft. Now, they have gotten some pretty impactful players in the draft, even in this offseason's draft. I think Dillard has been really good at left tackle, and I think Miles Sanders is starting to get it as an NFL running back, and he's a threat. Now, you talk about guys with speed and guys that you can use with speed in the passing game. Maybe it's Miles Sanders. I mean, obviously, he's probably the fastest active player on the team right now, so why not use him more in the passing game? He's a weapon. I like this offense when you have both Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders on the field at the same time. I mean, Miles Sanders pretty much has that dual threat, right? The run, the pass. He's kind of like what Darren Sproles was years ago. All due respect to Mighty Mouse. But I like Miles Sanders, and I like what he's brought to this team in recent weeks. Obviously, over 100 all-purpose yards a couple weeks ago against Buffalo. He's made some big chunk plays, and those are the plays that have been missing because you don't have that speed receiver a la a Deshaun Jackson or what have you. Now, maybe there are some other speed receivers out there. I mean, I heard Mike Wallace's name thrown around and whatnot, but honestly, I think what we have right now is what you're going to get. Now, some people are talking Dez Bryant. I really hope we've learned our lesson about bringing in former Cowboys, okay? I think we had one this season, and that was enough, okay? I don't know. I don't know what he has left. Obviously, he's coming off an Achilles injury when he went to the Saints last season. So I don't know what he has left in the tank. He's a former Cowboy. Those guys are just trouble. All right, enough of that. Enough of guys who were the star. All right, we've had that. We know what they are. No. So more than likely, barring a surprise move here within the next week, what we have on the roster is what we have, and that's what they're going to have to go with. Can they win with the players that they have? I believe they can. I do believe that Doug and the offensive coaching staff has got to figure out this offense, has got to figure out the strengths of this offense, has got to utilize the strengths of this offense more than they've been doing. Run the ball. Keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS concept. This offense runs at its finest when they establish a running game. When they establish a running game, even though they don't have a speed receiver, it opens things up for the passing game for them. This offensive line, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is one of the best run-blocking offensive lines in the league. Use it. It's there. It's like, this offensive line is like having that speed receiver. It only works when you throw the ball to that speed receiver. It only works when you run the ball. When you let these horses up front lead the way for the running game, and it doesn't matter what defense they're playing. We've seen them run block against some of the better defenses in the league. You saw them open up holes against Buffalo. You saw them open up holes against Chicago in the first half when they were running the ball. Okay, and look, it opens things up. And Doug, he's a smart guy. Okay? He's got to understand that, and the coaching staff has got to understand that. They know that they don't have D-Jax, and I think the one positive of it is that they haven't had him for quite some time. And I know that this offense has been Jekyll and Hyde week to week, week to week. We don't know. I really think that they need to understand that they have two really good running backs on this roster, in Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, and they got to get the most of these guys. This offensive line is a run-blocking machine. Use it. Use it, and it opens things up in the passing game. And I understand the receivers aren't very fast, and that's not going to change. It's not going to change overnight. But I think they're still effective enough if you're running the ball and you're keeping a defense honest. And we've seen that in recent weeks. Obviously, we saw that weeks ago against Green Bay in a big win in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. We saw that against Buffalo. You saw that in the first half against Chicago, and then it's like they go away from it. And that's what helped Chicago come back in the game, all those 3 and outs on offense, because you're getting pass happy. Go with what got you that lead. And sometimes I think the coaching staff, maybe not just Doug, but just the whole coaching staff as a whole, just forgets that. It's like you're having success doing something in the first half, and here comes the second half. Now we got to, we didn't pass the ball enough in the first half. Now we got to pass. No, when you have a lead, you gotta chew that clock. That means you gotta run the ball and do the things that you had success with to establish that lead in the first place. Well, the first half, defense was playing great. Everyone was playing great. Offense was scoring. Defense was shutting down Chicago. I know it was Mitch Trubisky was shutting down the Bears, taking the run away, which is what this defense is really good at, and that's going to help, right, when you go up against some of these teams coming up. You got to make your opponent one-dimensional. And this defense, even though they had the issues in the secondary, still, when you make a defense one-dimensional, guess what? And if that one dimension is passing, that means you're going to have opportunities. At pass rush, you're going to have opportunities at takeaways, at interceptions. You got to make the most of those opportunities. But it's on the coaching staff. Look, it is what it is. Okay? A speed receiver isn't going to drop out of the heavens to us right now. This is the offense that we have. But I think it still could be a very effective offense because we have a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and we have a very good running game. And I think those are two assets and aspects of an offense that you can have success with. We've seen teams do this. And yes, it is nice to have that big burner as a wide receiver. It certainly would help. I wish Deshaun never got hurt. I mean, obviously we saw the difference he made in week 1 against Washington. But it is what it is. We don't have him. We don't have a speed receiver right now. Howie didn't go out and get one. So it is what it is. Let's make the most out of what we have and go with the strengths of this offense. Running the ball and Carson not turning the ball over. Maybe Carson can be a little more mobile too, keep plays alive with his feet. Now they did go out, and I talked about Howie, being safe. This so far bringing back familiar names and faces, and he brought another familiar name and face back this past week. Jordan Matthews returns. Jordan Matthews is almost like the Billy Martin of the Eagles receivers right now, okay? Billy Martin, for those of you who don't know, was a Yankee player and then became a Yankee coach who kept getting fired and rehired and fired and rehired by George Steinbrenner. You know, those many years ago, to the point that Seinfeld actually had a bit on that during the one of their bits there with their Steinbrenner. But yeah, he's basically the Billy Martin of the Eagles receiving corps. I mean, he's gone, he's back. He's gone, he's back. He's gone, he's back. But he is a familiar face, not just for the franchise, but for Carson. And, you know, for what it's worth, maybe he helps open things up with the offense, too. Is he fast? No. He's another plotting receiver. But, you know, I mean, he has that rapport with Carson, and maybe that's a good thing. You know, we'll see. I'm not saying that this offense is going to be, you know, explosive, the greatest show on turf type Rams type offense, the 98 Vikings, you know, some of those other great offenses, even the offense we had years ago when we won the Super Bowl. But I still think it can be effective, and I think it can be effective enough to win enough games to win a division title and to get to the playoffs. Now, look, it takes two sides of the ball to do it. When we talked about the offense, the defense, who has been playing better lately, their secondary, much maligned as they've been, starting to get guys back. I know they got Jordan Mills back some weeks ago, Vontae Maddox last week, Crevion LeBlanc coming back. So, look, you're getting guys back. You're starting to get guys healthy, and that's a good thing. Because, look, as much as we want this offense to produce, the defense has to play better too. And not for nothing, the next two games are against two pretty good monster opponents, right? You got the Patriots and more than likely the league MVP coming into town and Russell Wilson and the Seahawks the week after. Huge games. Every game from now on, obviously, the importance level goes up even more because now you're talking about it's the second half of the season, okay? And these games I don't think there's any game that doesn't matter in an NFL season because it's such a short season, 16 games. But these games, this is where you really want to make your hay, okay? You are in a winnable division. Dallas is not going to run away with this. They have some tough games coming up. They have to go to New England in a few weeks. They got, you know, this week's game against Minnesota, albeit at home. It is at least against a playoff contender. They're not playing the Giants this week, okay? So they're playing a team. All right, so they're going to have some tough games. We have some tough games, obviously. The Eagles do. New England and Seattle, the difference, though, is they got both of those teams here. We got them in our building. And the home field advantage is something that the Eagles still have to establish. It's been a tough place for a road team to win the last few seasons. Obviously, the year they won the Super Bowl, the only loss I believe they had at home that season was that meaningless game at the end of the year to Dallas. You know, where basically the starters played for like a quarter or whatever it was. It is what it is. Last season, they won more than they lost at home, and so far this season, they've won more than they've lost at home. And again, it's establishing that home field advantage because guess what? I mean, look, they're not, more than likely, they're not going to have a first-round bye. They're not going to have, you know, a second-round home game, but what they will have if they win the division and make the playoffs is they'll have a wild card home game. You know, so that's important. You got to establish that home field advantage, go through, win these games, more than you lose, particularly the rest of the season, particularly at home, and, you know, make something happen. You know, make the postseason, get the, you know, if not the first round bye, which probably isn't going to happen, get that wild card game at home, win that game. You know, maybe you go on a roll, maybe you go on a run. Who knows? It's weird things have happened in the NFL. I've seen wild card teams win Super Bowls. I've seen wild card teams get the Super Bowls. So sometimes it's just you just get in. And I know that there's some really tough opponents. The Saints are playing great. The 49ers are playing great. The Seahawks are playing great. One of those teams going to win the division. The Rams, who knows? I mean, it's going to be one of those three that win that division. So there's some really good, you know, teams that are playing really well right now. But at the same time, I look at all of those teams and I do see a weakness on every team. I don't think there's a perfect team, even though the Niners have a perfect record. We'll see what happens this Monday night against Seattle. Big game that's going to be. But I don't think there's a team that just is perfect and is just unbeatable. If you play them here, if you play them there, you just get in. You see what happens. And we know that we have warts on this team and there's flaws on this team. But at the same time, if there is a team that can go on a run, It's this one. That's what they've done. They did it last year. They won a Super Bowl a couple years ago with injuries. If there's any team that can overcome things and do it, it's this one. They just have to put it together and find a way. Again, go with the strengths on offense particularly. Go to the running game. Establish your offense with a running game. It opens things up for a passing game, and there you go. You can have success even against teams like New England and Seattle coming up. So a lot's going to be seen, a lot's going to be shown in the next few weeks. My opinion is if they split the next two games, I'll take it. I'll certainly take it over going 0-2. I'd love them to win both games. That would be awesome because then they have the underbelly of their schedule coming up after that. You got teams, and you don't want to take anyone lightly, but you got Miami, you got Washington, the Giants twice, and then that monster game with Dallas. But look, if you lose some of those games, the Dallas game might not matter. So, I don't want to see this team beat the Patriots and the Seahawks and then lose to Miami. And then lose to the Redskins or something. That wouldn't be good. That would kind of, you don't want that. My best guess, and as a big fan, I want to see them win every game, but my best guess is they split the next two. And then you go and as long as they take care of business against those teams, they should take care of business against. The game against Dallas is probably going to decide this division title. But we'll worry about that game in December when we get to it. Right now, obviously, it's the bye week. And then next week, you got that rematch of Super Bowl 52. We're, not for nothing, but the Patriots are coming off a loss, a bad loss. They were embarrassed against the Ravens. It does worry me a bit. Because now you're going to get an angry Belichick. You're going to get an angry Patriot team coming in. And they do remember Super Bowl 52. So the Eagles have to be ready. I mean, they have to be ready for that game. And hopefully the coaching staff will put them in the best position to win that game. I mean, because it's going to be big. That's a big game. Obviously, it is an out-of-conference game, but it's a big one. And then Seattle rolls in. So, yeah, I mean, two tough opponents right out of the bye week. But I do think if there was such a thing as a good time for the bye week, it's now. It's now to get kind of recharged, get ready, and then you have those two monster opponents coming in. And then it gets a little easier with some teams like Miami, Washington, now. But, again, don't overlook them. But, we'll see. So, anyhow, that's me rambling on for 22 minutes. Last week's game and what I hope comes ahead. Again, do I think this team can win the division? Absolutely. Do I think they can make the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs? I do, if they play to their strengths. If they're doing the things that they should be doing to win games, I think they can. I really do. Sometimes you just get in. Get in, you have a chance, you take your chances, no matter where you're playing, no matter what the situation is. You get into the playoffs, you have a shot. I mean, look, last season you get into the playoffs, you win on a double doink game. But that's what the playoffs is. Now, could it go against us this time? Maybe, but you get in, you have a shot. And plus, it would be nice to take something away from Dallas. Wouldn't it take that division title away from them? Oh, they all think they have it right now. All those Dallas fans are, oh yeah, we're gonna win again. We got Zeke and Well, we'll see. We'll see. They got some tough games coming up. Okay, you're not playing the Giants now. All right, so not for nothing. And even that game before the Cat runs on the field, they were struggling. Cat must have been a Dallas fan. The Cat had better moves than the Eagles receivers this season, but yeah, that was pretty funny. But no, I love Harlan's call on that Cat in there to the 2, to the 1, and now he goes in. I gotta love Kevin Harlan's calls. But anyhow, that is basically the talk right now for the Eagles win against Chicago, and what my hopes are for the second half of the season going forward. Got some tough games coming up, but then, it gets a little, and I'm never going to say easy, but maybe a little easier with some of those opponents. And, we'll see. Hopefully they can get on that run. And, I still believe in this team. I still believe in number 11. I really do. I believe that they can do the things necessary to win games, to have success, but it's on the coaching staff to stay consistent. It's been one of the biggest issues for this team all year, just not being consistent, and it's across the board, so it has to get better. But if there is a coaching staff that can do it, if there's a team that can do it, it's this one. We've seen it. We have plenty of you know, plenty of examples from the past of, to prove the point that they can do it. They just have to go and do it. And yes, they're going to have to do it as a division champ because they're not going to do it. I mean, the wild card isn't going to come out of this division this year unless some crazy thing happens. It's just not going to happen. So you're going to have to win the division, take that away from Dallas and out of their clutches, and get in as a division champ and make some noise. If you get in, you have a home playoff game in the wild card, and then you take your chances on the road. Stranger things have happened. Like I've said, we've seen this. So, just get into the dance. Just get in. All right, anyhow, let's get to the Festive Four. Festive a week ago, okay, maybe not perfect. Yeah, Festive, you should have taken Baltimore. But no, they did. Festive was hoping that the Patriots would still be unbeaten going into this next week against the Eagles, and the Eagles could have given them their first loss, but those pesky Ravens got in the way. But no, a good win by the Ravens. Shout out to them. But former Eagle special teams coach Harbaugh, they're getting it done there in Baltimore this year. But no, Baltimore, ruined Festive's perfect week a week ago. So not back-to-back perfect weeks for Festive. But Festive's overall record from last week was 3-1. And overall for the season is 22-10. So that's still getting it done. That's not bad there, Festive. So this is this week's Festive Four. The four-pack of winners, again, just winners, the heck with the point spreads and all that rigmarole. We're just picking four winners every week, and we continue it on. First game Festive likes is the Los Angeles Rams over the Steelers. Remember, I have that bet with the Steeler fan at work that the Eagles will finish with a better record than the Steelers. It's a lunch bet. The Eagles are still a game ahead. So Festive and I are hoping that the Rams beat the Steelers so we could stay ahead. So anyhow, the Rams over the Steelers. Festive likes a struggling team to actually get a win this week. That would be Cleveland over Buffalo. And Festive's going with the return of Mahomes. Kansas City over Tennessee. And finally, last but not least, of course, Festive likes Green Bay over those kitty cats, over the Carolina Panthers. And speaking of MVP candidates, I mean, not for nothing, but right, the Carolina with Christian McCaffrey, having a hell of a season. And he was a guy that I know some of us were hoping the Eagles would have drafted some years ago, but of course Carolina, beat him to the punch there, and he's been awesome. He's been terrific. I have a buddy who's in the service right now, stationed in Hawaii, but he's from Carolina, so he's a huge, Panther fan, and McCaffrey's his favorite player. So shout out to him if he ever sees this. But no, I'm sorry about that. But Festive does believe Green Bay is going to bounce back after a tough loss against the Chargers a week ago to beat Carolina. That's the Festive Four. So yet again, in recap, Festive likes the Rams over Pittsburgh, likes Cleveland over Buffalo, Kansas City over Tennessee, and Green Bay over Carolina. That is the Festive Four. Going into, what's this now, week 10, I believe. I always get, really with a bye week, sometimes you just forget what week it is in the NFL because your team's not playing. But I believe it is week 10. Of course, started last night with or a couple nights ago, with the Rays winning against the LA Chargers in one of the best uniform matchups of the week, of the season. I love that uniform matchup. I'm a Jersey guy, so the Raiders wearing their throwback silver number white uniforms, and the Chargers had the powder blue as a road team. It would be hard to find a uniform matchup better than that. That was one of those all-timers. I love that matchup for the jerseys. I thought that was just so cool. The Raiders with those old, and then the Chargers, the powder blue. And the thing, I am disappointed. I am disappointed. Years ago when the NFL had, back in the day in '94, when the NFL celebrated their 75th anniversary, all teams wore throwback uniforms the whole season. Just different uniform. All teams had, of course, the big, 75th patch on there. For us Jersey heads like myself, the Mitchell & Ness jerseys with the 70. I have so many of those in the collection, but that was so great. Now, I understand there's deals with the helmets and everything. You tell me that they couldn't, plan this like a couple years ago so that Riddell could have made the helmets, the throwback helmets, and with the specifications for the concussion protocol and everything. They couldn't have worn throwback uniforms and all. I don't know. To me, it's kind of dropping the ball a little bit. I mean, the 100th. I mean, there's been plenty of specials on NFL Network and whatnot, but you have the little postage stamp 100th thing on the collar. It's not even a patch on the jersey, and they haven't really worn throwback uniforms and all. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. As a Jersey head, it does kind of bother me. I was hoping, we would have a lot more classic looking uniforms and all. I know some teams have worn, but they wear them every year. Obviously the Eagles, I mean, they could have worn the Kelly Greens as part of it, but it just wasn't meant to be. And it's a shame. I mean, it really is. Other leagues, you see these teams wearing these throwback, and I know it's different because they don't have to have the helmets, but, the NBA, they wear them, the NHL, they wear them, baseball, they always, the powder blues for the Phillies. I mean, the NFL, they couldn't. It's disappointing. It really is, because there was a lot of great uniforms that could have been, worn this season as part of the 100th celebration. But, it is what it is. But yeah, that matchup though, Raiders and Chargers with those uniforms, that was awesome. And to me, that was probably, to this point in the season, the best uniform matchup of the year. I just really got a kick out of it. And I know the Chargers were just wearing the regular powder blues, but still, that with the Raider uniforms, it just, oh. To the point that I was actually looking around to see if I can find a Raider, because they're wearing a patch, I guess 60 Cs or whatever it is. Of course, now they're going to move to Las Vegas next year, but the 60th or whatever. I mean, that uniform with that patch, I mean, that was awesome. And I know, I'm sorry, I'm speaking as a Jersey head right now, but that was, man, imagine getting like one of those jerseys with that patch and that old, the silver number, uniforms. Boy, oh boy. So shout out to Raider Nation. Great looking uniforms, and the patch was popping on those too. So anyhow, another former Eagle connection there with Gruden. Many years ago, he was the offensive coordinator with the Eagles, of course. Went on to have some success as a head coach, but they got an Eagle connection there. Many years ago, back in the Randall years, but anyhow, that's it for this vid. That's it for the Festive Four, and that's it for the look back at the Bears and look ahead at the rest of the season. Again, halfway mark now, 5-4. Could it be better? Sure. Could it be worse? It could be. So hey, I'll take 5-4 with everything that's gone on so far this season, and I'll look for a better second half. And look, I mean, there's some monster games, so gotta get them. The good thing though is all three of those big games are here at the link, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, I know the Eagle fans will certainly be there in full throat for all those games, and they're big, particularly that one in December against Dallas. So, but to get to that one, to have that one matter, we got to win some games here. Okay, and yeah, they need to lose too. So, come on, Minnesota, help us out. I know Minnesota doesn't like us, so maybe Minnesota might not win that game, but I'm not saying they'll throw it, but it would be the Vikings, right? That Dallas. And, I know. Who do you root for? It's easy. Who do you root? You root for Minnesota this week. If we have to deal with them in the playoffs again, we'll deal. Remember, Cousins in December, January is a little different. So, All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. As always, let's go Birds. Bye week, but hey, develop that game plan. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Get to the strength of this offense. Run the ball. Set up for the passing game. This offensive line loves the run block. Do it. Big second half coming up. Let's get this second half. Let's get this division away from Dallas. Let's make the playoffs and make something happen in the playoffs. All right, Eagles Nation. For Festive is Mighty Fan. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Enjoy the bye week.